Assalamu alaikum, ladies. It's Maryam here. I haven't shown my face for a while, so I apologize, but I'm here today. And I really felt pulled to speak about something really important, and it is from the Quran, and it is Surah Ra'd, Ayah 11. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that surely, so inna is for emphasis, surely Allah will not change the situation of people or what is with those people, like with the state that they are in, حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم, until they change themselves. This is like such a huge ayah and such an amazing ayah if we really think about it. Like, you know, like the words Allah even uses, like inna Allah la yughayyiru, like Allah does not change anything about the people until they change themselves. What do we think about? Like when we think about change, what do we think about immediately? Oh yeah, I want that person to change because you know what, they're not behaving properly with me, and I want my job to change because I don't like my job, and I want my clients to change and stop paying me for my services because I don't like the way they keep saying no, and I want my car to change, and I want my house to change. And whenever we think of change, we always focused externally and thinking about how everything else needs to change apart from thinking about what we need to change and thinking about ourselves. But in reality, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? It's the opposite. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not change the situation of a people or what they are in or what they have, حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم, until they change what is inside themselves. And I keep saying this and I keep repeating this. If you want your life to change, if you want your relationships to change, if you want your health to change, if you want your business to change, stop looking out there. The answer is not out there. The answer is in here. The answer is inside you. Until you don't make a decision that you want to change, until you don't decide that you are going to go for that change without compromise, nothing is going to change for you. Because you know why? Like I said before, I've mentioned this before, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sets the laws of the universe. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something, then it's just final. It's never going to change. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something, that's how it's going to happen. Nothing is going to go away from that law or do something that is against that law or not follow that rule. It's like rules, and Allah's rule is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change the situation of a people until those people change themselves. So if you're in a situation where you're not happy, if you're not happy with your health, you need to get up. You need to start exercising. You need to start eating healthy. You need to start changing your thoughts. You need to start changing your habits until your health gets to the point that you're happy with. If you're not happy with your business, there's something inside you that needs changing. Maybe you don't feel deserving of money. Maybe you feel like what you have, your skills are not worthy of being paid for. Maybe you have problem with sort of depending on other people for approval, and maybe that's why you're constantly looking for approval in your clients, whereas you should be showing them that approval doesn't matter and you actually have services that can help them. Maybe you want to change this, like your relationships. What needs to change? You need to change in order to change your relationships. You need to change your habits. You need to change the way you think. You need to change the way you approach. You need to change your behavior. You need to change the way you're interacting with the person, or maybe you need to leave the relationship, or maybe you need to stay in the relationship. It's all dependent upon you, and you're the only one who can change it, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said it. Allah will not change your situation until you change yourself. So this is just a reminder for me and for you that every time you're in a situation which you are not happy with, or a situation that you want to change, the only person that can change it is you, by making the effort, by trying hard, by seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and by taking steps, taking small action steps every single day that drive you to make that change. And why? And why is this your greatest power and your greatest responsibility, because it's a power. Because you know what? This ability to make a choice, this ability to have willpower, this ability to choose what we want to do is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has only blessed the insan with. And it's a blessing, but it's also a burden. And you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He offered this responsibility of choice, of being able to make a choice in each moment to the heavens and the earth. And what does Allah say? فَأَبَيْنَ, like they refused. The heavens and the earth said, no, we don't want this responsibility. We don't want the ability to make a choice. Because you know what that means? When you're able to make a choice, you have a choice about whether you obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have a choice about whether you behave in a certain way or don't behave in a certain way. You have a choice whether you exercise or you don't exercise. You have a choice as to how you use your voice. You have a choice as to how you use your eyes. You have a choice as to how you use your hands. And what does that mean when you have that choice? You are responsible for the choices you make. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of Qiyamah is going to ask you about the choices you have made. And what does Allah say? Like the earths and the heavens, when Allah offered them this choice, they refused. They refused. And the human being accepted it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, like, the human being was ignorant at that time. Like, he didn't really fully comprehend the situation or realize what responsibility he was going to carry. So believe me, like, we want to run and we want to escape this power of making a choice. We want to escape it. And we want to blame everyone else or blame our situation, or we want to live in these victim stories where we keep feeling sorry for ourselves and telling ourselves that we are in the situation we are in because of X, Y, and Z. That's not the case. The reality is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the power to make choices about every single thing in your life. He has given you the power to make a choice about whether you want to heal yourself and your emotions. He has given you the power to work on your business or not to work on it. He has given you the power to make the choice about your health or not to make the choice about your health. And all those little choices, even right in this moment, I'm making a choice to make this video. I'm making a choice to wave my hands. And all these little choices are ultimately something that we're going to be asked about. It's a responsibility that we have in each moment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask us about. He's going to ask us, what choices did you make? So it's our greatest power, because if we make the right choices, we become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can change our health. We can change our financial situations. We can change our bodies. We can change the way we feel. We can feel grateful. We can feel content. We can make choices about how we feel. We can make choices about our health. We can make choices about our health. We can make choices about our relationships. We can literally make a lot of choices. We can even, by our choices, choose whether we want to go to Jannah or to Jahannam. Obviously, ultimately, it's at the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but our actions also determine whether we go to Jannah or Jahannam. So that's why it's a big power that we have. It is so much power in the ability to make a choice, because we can use that power to literally transform our lives, to transform every area in our lives to what we want it to be. But then at the same time, with that power comes great responsibility, because for every single choice that we make, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to question us. He's going to ask us, and we're going to have to answer about every single choice. We're going to have to reply to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and tell Him what our reasons for our choices were, what our reasons for our actions were, and we're going to have to answer. And that also brings me back to the first point I made, that here on this earth and between or inside yourself, you might make excuses for yourself. You might blame someone else. You might blame your situation. You might make excuses. You might tell yourself lies about how you are where you are. Or I can't exercise because of X, Y, and Z. I can't do this because of that. This relationship is bad because that person doesn't behave properly. But when you're standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the full truth. He knows you better than you know yourself. And there, my sister, these excuses are not going to count. there you're not going to be able to make these excuses, and you're going to be asked about why you chose to allow things to control your life. Why did you choose to sit there and blame X, Y, and Z? Why didn't you make choices that changed your life? Why didn't you make choices that brought you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why didn't you make choices that empowered you? Why didn't you make choices that changed your health? So we might make excuses here, but in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those excuses won't count. So if you're sitting on a decision, or if you're waiting to make a decision about something or make a choice about something that you know is good for you, then stop sitting on it, stop thinking about it, and start taking full responsibility of the choice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, and make the necessary choices that will drive you to a better version of yourself, to a more sound version of yourself, a more healthy version of yourself, and a version of yourself that is closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and is reaching to Jannah. So start getting responsible for yourself and say to yourself, I am responsible for my choices. This is a really important affirmation or statement that you need to tell yourself every day. I am responsible for the way my life looks like. I am responsible for the choices I make. I am responsible for my relationships. I am responsible for myself. And the moment you do that, that's when change will start happening, because when you take responsibility and you realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask you about each and every single choice, that will make you make choices that are good for you, that will drive you to change, that will drive you to change every single thing in your life, so that you are living a life that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is taking you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so that you are living a life in which every area of your life is improving and getting better every single day. So going back to my first point, the ayah which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was sharing with you, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah does not change the situation of a people until they change themselves. And the power of choice, that is your greatest power and your greatest responsibility. Use it wisely. And let me know in the comments, what choices are you going to make today? Don't delay. You might be dead by tomorrow. You might not have this chance to make these choices again. You might die tonight, and tomorrow you might be asked. So right now, what are the choices you want to make, or you're committed to make, so that you can meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knowing that you made an effort towards Him today, so that knowing that you made an effort towards a better version of you. Maybe you need help with something. Maybe you need to change your diet. Maybe you need a support group. Whatever it is. Maybe you need to start praying your salah. Maybe it could be anything, but what's the choice you're going to make today, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask you, and knowing that you are fully responsible for your life? That's the question I want to ask as I finish this video. And jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.